Robert Lenkiewicz played many roles: painter, lover, scholar, fool, magus. Self-mythologizing was sometimes simply tomfoolery, which he enjoyed immensely, but, as Diogenes said, always a true word spoke in jest. Sometimes the roles were played entirely seriously. I wouldn't want to say anything too hasty about how seriously Robert played the role of Magus, but more needs to be said about Robert's relationship to myth, for it was contagious. Robert was happy to have seemingly serious conversations on the raising of the devil and its possibilities, and many people who were close to him helped in the development of a certain dark halo. Dr. Philip Stokes recalls a conversation with one of his ladies at the Fool Gallery. When I asked her how she saw Robert's career evolving, she had replied that he was so totally evil that most likely the devil would snatch him off in a puff of brimstone, or at least he would die suddenly, strangely, and without warning. One of Robert's intellectual heroes was Dr. John Dee, a genius mathematician, map maker, astrologer to Queen Elizabeth I, who genuinely believed he was communicating with angels. Why, one wonders, why on earth, when given the availability of such brighter mythologies, did Robert prefer to play the role of Faust? A good starting point for an answer might be Robert's Jewishness. Robert's break with Judaism was profound, but it remained a break with Judaism rather than any other religion. Religiously, he was no more a Jew than he was a Mormon or a Sufi, but he was culturally Jewish, and this goes some way towards understanding his relationship to the figure of Satan. The Christian Satan is entirely evil and almost as powerful as the God with whom he contends. This figure of total evil is particularly pronounced in Protestantism, and it's difficult to imagine a more Protestant city than Plymouth. In contrast, the Jewish Satan is a dangerous but nuanced character who doubles as the angel of death, obediently doing God's dirty work. There's a Hasidic tradition that the angel of death, an archangel no less, Lord Samael, is so beautiful that the moment he appears, you fall in love so violently and completely that your soul leaves your body through your eyes. It's a far cry from the monstrous leather-winged, red-eyed beast of Christianity. The devil in Judaism can demonstrate wit, good humour, even mercy. Most importantly, he can be a teacher of virtue. In Praed's Cafe one afternoon, Robert told me the story of Plimo. Plimo was a respected Talmudist, and whenever he saw wrongdoing, which was very often, he would shout, "Ah, an arrow in Satan's eye!" Well, this sort of thing attracts attention, and the Dark One paid Plimo a visit, disguised as a vagrant. This was on the eve of the Day of Atonement, and Plimo was not particularly hospitable to the beggar. So, Satan tricked Plimo into thinking he had somehow killed the beggar, but the beggar came back to life. When the terrified Plimo fell at the feet of the zombie beggar, Satan took pity on him. Satan revealed his identity and the true purpose of his visit, saying, "Plimo, why are you always praying for me to have arrows stuck in my eyes?" Grovelling, Plimo replied, "What else am I to say?" And Satan answered, "How about, may the merciful Lord rebuke Satan?" Thus, Satan taught the respected Talmudist Plimo the true Talmudic requirements of hospitality and mercy. I know nothing in any Christian tradition to parallel this tale except perhaps William Blake's mysticism, which is so syncretic as to be semi-pagan in its treatment of Satan. Now, Robert was weaned on such stories at the Shem Tov. They enable both light-hearted learning and serious discussion without anybody raging about the literal truth or the one true interpretation. They provoke thought rather than reduce it to doctrines. But the Jewish figure of Satan was only a starting point. Throughout his 20s and 30s, as his research into myth and religion progressed, he became aware of the devil, or a demon, was usually a divinity worshipped by whichever neighbours a monotheist was in dispute with. Tiamat, Samael, Baal, Lucifer, Pan, Lilith, Ishtar, anything feminine, foreign, or with horns became the devil. Also, the alchemy Robert studied contained hosts of planetary demons. In this sense, the word demon is not an indicator of metaphysical evil at all. It's more of a neo-pagan term for a powerful animating spirit. Committed Christians, even some popes, would happily wear an amulet inscribed with the sigils of the planetary demons of Mercury and Jupiter and the Sun. The Church also assimilated some pagan gods and forces and demons as saints, and considers some of the mother goddesses as misguided prototypes of the Virgin Mary. But mainly the former divinities connected with the joys of sex or creativity were not welcome in Christianity, for monotheism will not tolerate a co-creator. So from Robert's point of view, the God envisioned by the majority of people was simply an authority figure saying no to the most interesting possibilities of divinity. Satan thus personifies a refusal of that boring, asexual abstraction of a divinity. The devil, singular, is a kind of Christianized cartoon, symbolizing the battalions of powers and passions, condemned by a triumphant and authoritarian monotheism. Robert studied the centuries in which sexually creative divinity survived only in the shadowlands of mysticism and allegory, the male and female emanations of the Kabbalah, some juicy sentences in the visions of St. Teresa, the odd Old Testament remnants such as the Song of Solomon. It was only when the powers of the Catholic Church were eroded that it was possible for the likes of William Blake to reimagine the God-devil relationship in richer terms. Blake's remythologization was both beautiful and heretical, and Robert approved of it. The pride of the peacock is the glory of God. The lust of the goat is the bounty of God. The wrath of the lion is the wisdom of God. The nakedness of woman is the work of God. Thus, when we talk about Robert's relationship to the devil, in a self-mythologizing or any other register, we should remind ourselves that Robert's alleged Satanism was a very broad church with much mischief and very little evil. With his extensive knowledge of the history of ideas, the seemingly obvious reference points of images like self-portrait with cloven hoof must be allowed some non-Christian breathing space. His symbolic interactions with the devil are a complex alloy of elements ranging through the great god Pan, any number of mythological satyrs, Dionysus, the beautiful angel of death, the old god Saturn, the horned god Semiramis, the nameless spirits of shamans of Paleolithic cave paintings. The possibility that his philosophical investigations and his historical investigations might provoke physical violence from his neighbours was never far away. He was aware of this, and he sometimes admitted as much, though it didn't change his behaviour. In his diary on the 9th of February 1977 he notes, "Dave the Bum has been attending Pentecostal meetings over the last 3 to 4 days at the Bethel Mission. A group of London-based members have convinced their following that I was the head of some sort of magical coven before I came to Plymouth. They are attempting to organise a petition and newspaper articles to expose my satanic activities. Children littered all over the city and a large number of mentally controlled zombies under my influence. Someone who has known me personally has informed them of the black magic. What a ridiculous term. Contents of my house, my library, etc. They are praying for me regularly, it appears, and taking the whole juvenile obsession very seriously. I have an image of torch-carrying psychopathic Plymouthians churning up my pathway and burning the house down in Hammer horror film fashion. I also think of poor old Dr. D at Mortlake. It would be ironic if I had to leave Plymouth for other reasons than my relationships project.